Okay, it's Thursday, February 17th at 4 p.m. and we will start the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority Facilities Committee meeting, calling that to order. And we'll start with agenda item A, the airport, and I am not certain who's going to. Steve?
Stephanie can take you through kind of a review and discussion of what we've gotten for ESS proposals so far. So she's worked on that, and I'll let her handle the discussion.
We have the bid proposals were due last Friday. The DOT received 2 proposals, and you have all seen them. They are Air Charter Express out of Rome, New York, and Boutique Air. I think they're out of California, but we're familiar with them because they do fly into neighboring Messina. I will tell you this, Air Charter Express does not meet the minimum standards for the DOT.
So it really isn't something
We really need to.
and you're pretty sure that,
They have notified them that they do not meet the minimum criteria.
okay, after their review, they've sent to them. So we really don't need to consider Air Charter Express, I guess.
Boutique,
Okay.
if you want to quickly go through their proposal, they are proposing a PC-12 that is a single engine, 8 or 9 seater, and a Beechcraft King Air to fly in and out of Ogdensburg. They have proposed a either 2 or 4 year contract. With a start date, I did speak to them on Tuesday. They said they are moving things around. They have an understanding of our situation and are moving to go quickly into our market if they are so chosen. They do have both interline and code share agreements with United, and they have interline with American. Now, interline and code share are very confusing for most folks, but the fact that they do have them is very good for us, because with a code share, it means you can book on United Airlines from Ogdensburg to wherever, and it would be a United ticket, basically. With American, it's interline, meaning you would book on Boutique, and then you could transfer to an American flight. They would handle all the baggage. You checked in once in Ogdensburg, and then you could continue on without having to check into another airline. That's the biggest difference between interline and code share. Interline is, in my opinion, most important, and they have it with both airlines. Because once you get on a flight, once you leave Ogdensburg and go to another airport, you don't want to have to go claim your bags and check in again at another airline. So we know that. That is a very good thing. They advised me that their fares would start at about $59 and probably go up to about $189 average from here.
What's the difference? Why the difference?
Pardon?
Why the difference from 59 to 100?
Oh, it's like any other airline. If you're the first one to book, you get the cheapest flight,
Okay.
and as the aircraft fills up, it gets more expensive.
Got it.
As far as timing goes, first departure would be between 6 and 7 a.m. Give or take a few minutes. The last arrival in the evening would be around 8 p.m. They have 2 proposals. The first one is 18 nonstop flights a week, 11 to Boston, 7 to Baltimore, Washington. Now, pros and cons with this. The one thing I did ask them when they, if you look at the sheet and it has revenue and passengers, they had
Which sheet is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, it is page 8 on the.
Okay.
They say passengers 12,730. It didn't add up for me, so I asked them, and that is arrivals and departures, not enplanements. So they're only predicting about 6,000 enplanements per year.
With that route? With that route?
Yes.
Or either route that they're proposing?
Either route that they're proposing, the numbers are the same.
Wait, so we're talking right now about one route? Are you talking?
No, we're talking about the 18 nonstop flights, 11 to Boston and 7 to Baltimore, Washington.
Okay, so to answer Dave's question,
It would be,
the 12,730 would be the most you could get out of that whole configuration.
the entire configuration, and that's inbound and outbound, not enplanements. So you pretty
Right.
much cut
Right.
those in half.
Okay. So the
Same-
6,000, I'm sorry, the 6,000 enplanements doesn't give us the
Exactly.
FAA
Hmm.
yearly.
Correct, 10,000 enplanements.
Okay,
Now, to note, this is the same flight, similar, flight schedule, same destinations as Messina down the road.
So
Um,
Messina does Baltimore and Boston.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Boston, the Boston destination has American Airlines and United Airlines connections. Baltimore and JetBlue. BWI does not. They don't have the top 3, the United, Delta, and American flights in and out of Baltimore, Washington. You'd have to catch a Southwest, a Frontier, or something like that. So that's something to consider. Now, the second proposal is 11 to Westchester County, White Plains Airport outside of New York City, and then 7 to Baltimore, Washington. White Plains is close to New York City, but you would have to catch a bus basically and get into New York City to one of the other airports to continue on to the major airlines.
is there just a bus or is there a train from White Plains into the city?
I believe
There's
there
a
might be a train.
There's a train?
There's
But
a train to
There is some type of public transportation.
But you have
However,
to get there.
Right. So there's no little connector jumper flights from White Plains into LaGuardia or JFK.
No.
not that I
And
know
you
of.
can't fly direct from White Plains somewhere else.
Correct. Yeah, White Plains is a destination. Once again, if you're going to,
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
Let's stop there. If White Plains is a destination that you can't go out of, how does that qualify for the original intent for a major hub?
Okay, I asked that question too.
Good.
And as long as they go to a major hub, which is Baltimore, Washington, that meets that criteria. Baltimore, Washington is considered a major hub, but it doesn't have any of the top 3 airlines that most people fly on in the United States. Then I asked the question of the DOT, where is our Ogdensburg's closest medium or large hub that we have to go to? The closest one is Newark. Because over these last few years, as the airlines have consolidated and so on, a lot of airports that were considered large, medium hubs, the airlines have pulled out of.
Right.
Used to be Buffalo. Buffalo now was downgraded to a small hub. So Newark is actually the closest medium or large hub for us. And that has different implications for us. One of them being just the distance to Newark is, from an EAS standpoint, is very beneficial because they consider Ogdensburg a critical airport. You know, there's no borderline. Do they need it? Don't they need it? We are absolutely, we qualify, and This is part of the reason the EAS program was put in for communities like ours. So that is very good in that respect. A couple of notes.
But like, no, Newark's not in this.
No, Newark is not, but that is the closest medium to large hub airport to Ogdensburg. A few other things. I asked some specifics of them. They requested a hangar. We do not have one. And they said if that becomes a problem in winter, they would bring their last flight in here and then fly to a nearby airport to hangar it overnight.
Do they have one in a hangar in Messina?
Pardon? Yes. And a logistical question for me would be, in inclement weather, not only is it our airport that has to be open and ready for business, but the nearby airport has to be open and ready for business for them to fly that aircraft back to Ogdensburg in the morning before our flights. I asked about their pilot base. They do have a pilot base at BWI, meaning the pilots live and work out of that area. So that is why that's why they like BWI. They can bring their crews back and forth. I asked about the maintenance base for their aircraft, and their closest maintenance base is Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which truly isn't that far as the crow flies. That was one.
South
They-
of Buffalo, right?
Pardon?
South of Buffalo?
Johnstown is central part of Pennsylvania.
Oh, I'm thinking of New York. I'm sorry.
Part of what SkyWest had told us was the problem with Plattsburgh and Ogdensburg, obviously. Their maintenance base was Chicago. And so if a plane broke down, they had to fly parts or mechanics or whatever from Chicago to do the repairs. And it was just a long distance. They would have a small footprint at Ogdensburg, which is what we expected, and it's not a big, not a big deal there. Now, something that was mentioned to me by the DOT is this week, they have put in their 90-day notice to 3 different airports.
Boutique has.
Boutique has done that. So that, to me, raises a flag. Now, options for the board from the DOT. We have 3 options.
Slow,
Yeah,
real slow.
We can accept the boutique. We can reject the boutique and go out for rebid,
Just like this one?
just like we did.
Okay.
The third option, and I am not real familiar with this, I'm learning, is something called alternate EAS. And that is a program that is grant funded by the DOT, but the OBPA would be making the contract with an airline. Pluses and minuses with that, pluses and minuses with rebidding, pluses and minuses with boutique, and that would be a decision on which way you want to go. I can learn more details. If you have any specific questions, I will find out. I did ask the DOT if they would speak to Steve, Patty, the facilities committee in a conference call just to answer any questions you might have, and they're more than happy to do that.
Okay.
I have questions. What do you guys have some questions or thoughts or?
I'll answer anything that I know.
They don't really necessarily pertain to this. I mean, they do in a way. I'm just curious. I'm a little surprised, right? If I would go back to this American Express thing, if it doesn't really qualify, I'm surprised that DOT lets it come to us.
They let it come to us as full disclosure.
Okay, I see.
When I got the phone call right before this was emailed to me last Friday, he told me that. He said, but full disclosure, I have to show this to
Okay,
you.
I see. So then, and then this logistics, if they're not qualified, does that mean we have to, even though we have a bid here from a boutique, does that mean we have to seek another one to compare or not? That
No,
wasn't one of the three things you said. I was just curious.
no, it is not, no, we do not.
Would we then have to reject boutique to get a whole new
Yes,
set of comparables?
yes.
I guess I just have a question about the ramifications of accepting anything that we know right out of the gate is not going to get us to 10,000 emplanements.
That is a dilemma for us. Unfortunately, the EAS program is not meant to get us the employments.
Hmm.
The 10,000 employments is an FAA qualifier to get grant money. The DOT's job is to get air service to a major hub from these small communities. So these bids do not have to
Okay.
come close to that.
I think it's just it's a consideration for us.
Yes,
I
Well-
think in, to the public, they need to understand how the airport was set up since 2016.
Right.
And that's the driving factor. We lengthened the runway. We based it with cross-border travel from Canada. We've geared up with our equipment, our parking facilities to, and what was the number for 2019 for employments? 29,000?
no, 26,900, I
Okay,
think.
give or take.
It was
But-
well over
Yeah.
20,000.
Right,
Yeah.
and we were, at the time, we were increasing, that was jet service, that was a combination of SkyWest coming in at that year, and we still had Allegiant. So we know that in normal times, that model works and is sustainable for us. To accept boutique, I mean, just, we have expenses that are incurred that we use for capital expenses that we have to take care of. And we can't, if we were, and I'm just saying from a financial standpoint, this doesn't work for us.
Right.
And the public needs to understand, it's not that, if we had other airlines in here, let's just say Allegiant was in here, that might be a perfect match considering where we're at there, but without a low-cost carrier, which is what we based the expansion of the airport on, and then to get jet service from SkyWest was a really good match there, and with cross-border travel. So as much as I'm just, whatever, I'm not trying to influence anything, but I think the public needs to know what we're up against in accepting, a smaller plane and a smaller employment load. It's not just the the $1 million for the 10,000 is a
Right.
big factor, but that's all capital stuff that it's just spent on the airport. It's not anything that helps us with running the airport or paying off our debts or anything like that. It's great to have, no question about it,
Right.
because you can plan, you can build your airport, and we've done a great job with that. But But with that, it really is going to make it difficult for us to sustain financially. And as you all know, it's tough right now.
Right.
So I just wanted to get that out so that the public understands, you know, our position, and we want to do what's best. And the general community has to decide on some of this too. It's not all us. And you know, USDOT wants input too. And there have been people that have given us all kinds of input, which we really appreciate. But anyway, I just thought that needed to be said.
And that,
Right.
that input, especially, well, what has come in writing, either to Steve or myself, I've accumulated, and that will go to the DOT also. Because that is a big factor for the DOT.
And I think some of the things that people have said, we weren't aware of, and we didn't realize what we've done there has really made a great connection with, I know, the universities and different things that, you know, I don't want to say take it for granted. We assume that's happening, but to have somebody say that, we had one college professor say, knowing that they had nonstop direct service to Washington was one of the reasons she took a job at Clarkson.
Right.
And I wouldn't, you know, you assume some of that stuff, but to hear it right now and how important it is, we realize that we need to kind of continue that if at all possible.
Right.
Well, the intent, as Steve has mentioned, for expanding the airport was so we could become a Class 1 airport, which we are. But that means certain things. And the fact that now we have to pay for it, this is nothing against Boutique, but their proposal doesn't fit with, I think, our short or long-term plans. We have, I think, conditioned the region that we will offer jet service out of our airport. Not that anyone else's planes are, not really acceptable, but jet service offers a different level than what we're talking about today. And that's what I think we need to look for if we're really going to keep investing in the airport and following what we want to do for the traveling public up north and expand our base of who we attract the passengers to our airport. Unfortunately, a 9-passenger plane will not do that. It doesn't get us, I think, to financially where we need to be. My only thoughts are either 2 or 3. We either reject Boutique and go out for more bids, or we ask DOT what this alternative EAS program is all about, in my opinion. If we're really going to have a Class 1 airport and provide the service I think we have in the past, and I think will be in demand in the future, sooner or later, all this issue with the border will change, and we will again go back to having additional Canadian passengers, and we'll have the numbers we need to have a financially viable Class 1 airport.
And if I may, just to remind you that in 2021, without Allegiant Airlines and with the border closed basically until November, we made our 10,000 in payments with the SkyWest service. I don't know what would have happened if the border had been open.
And that was mostly to Washington.
Yes.
Yes.
The year before, we had Chicago and Washington.
Right.
The
So
hub-
even having a decent hub
Right.
was enough.
Yeah, and I didn't
One,
even touch on the hub. The fact that White Plains, there's no further destination, that eliminates that completely in my mind. I mean, if you're not going to Boston or Newark or Washington, that's not what we need.
And then the fact that Boston's part of this is, so is Messina's got Boston. So with the border closed, you're really taking more of the traveling pie from this area and just splitting it up amongst us.
Right.
And for us to get employments or even Messina to keep theirs, it would probably, I don't see a portion of the local coming out of the woodwork and
Right.
increasing employments right now.
That doesn't help either of us.
No.
Is there a reason that we only had 2 bids? Only because last time we had many more. And is it really a state of the airline industry, which I'm
Yes.
assuming it is?
Yes.
Or is there something we can do to do better too, right? I mean, I think, feel like, I know when I flew in the other day, just the people talking to me on the plane were like, man, this service is unbelievable. And the Canadian travel I was sitting next to said, well,
Yeah, tell that story.
Yeah, the border guy, he flies every week. And he just said, he's figured out here in the last month and a half, once the border opened, that he could come here and how easy it was and how great the airport is. I mean, it was nothing but accolades for what we do and what SkyWest did too. So it was a partnership. So it was clear to him that he was coming back from Mexico City, and I think we, as Sam said, the public has come to expect the level of service that we've come to provide, and we need to figure out how we get that done. And maybe it is EAS service, maybe it isn't. I don't know. We have to figure that out. Definitely, there's no question this area needs that kind of a touch. I just don't know what it means in regards to how do we get more interest or not in a time when airlines are all strong. I heard on the radio, on the way here, talking about flight personnel and having a hard time and how tough their job is with COVID and everything. So, well, I guess I would say,
What's our next step?
The next
Depending on
step,
what, I mean,
the next step is to, once the board makes a determination which of those 3 to choose.
no, sorry to interrupt, but I believe the date that we have to get back to DOT is before our next board meeting, is it?
It's the 25th.
It's the 25th. So obviously the facilities committee can't make that decision.
Right.
So,
We can just make a recommendation to the full board.
and then would that allow us to
In the
communicate?
meantime, we may be able to ask federal DOT for additional information.
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
That's what I was hoping for, that we could, before we even make a recommendation to the full board, that we can have a conversation with the DOT.
Yes.
There's
and
someone who would meet with us.
we can get a date together there. What they expect a call from me tomorrow.
So we have to, right now, do we have to do option 1, 2, or 3
I think we need more information.
before we talk to them, or
No, we do not. We can call them and ask the questions
by the 25th, was it?
which is,
a week from tomorrow.
yeah.
So we'd have to have a full meeting,
that's kind of what I'm getting to.
right, a full meeting by then and do option 1, 2, or 3.
Yes.
With more information coming to you.
Yes,
Based on that, they may say, you can only do 2, or
right,
you do 1 or 2, but we can't help you with 3. And then we'd have to, as a board, decide
right.
what kind of answer you want from us to DOT. So right now, path forward, you say, would be, we need to work something out with a conversation with US DOT.
I think so,
Early.
I
Dave?
think that's the, yep, do you need a vote on that?
No,
I will call Michael tomorrow, and maybe after this, we can decide at this meeting when are some good dates and times, and I'll call Michael.
I think that's probably the right.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially given the alternate EAS program, seems very vague for all of us. So I think just to get more information
I'm
about that,
very unfamiliar,
right?
but
we
I
need
wanted
some more
to show
details
you
about
all of
that.
the options.
So for now, we'll wait to hear back from you.
Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
We're ready to move on?
I believe so. Yeah.
So we'll go
A2.
A2, discussion of rates.
That would be something with Stephanie.
Okay, you have a letter in the packet explaining what I was talking about, and two rate sheets. The first rate sheet is to update the EAS rates and charges because that is the most eminent. And the second one is an overall sheet of our rates and charges. Because if the board does not have a rate or a specific rate and charge, we can be called to question on what we're charging folks. It's very important as far as the FAA goes, as far as equality and fairness for everyone. We're required to do that, charge fair rates to across the board. So this is what I am proposing for the EAS rates. They were raised about $15 per turn overall since 2018. So it is not a huge increase, but it does specify everything that we charge for. And that may be something that we want to get into place sooner than later. I did, when the airlines asked, I said this was proposed because our fiscal year starts April 1st, and you will see that on the top. So that is what we have. Now, as I said, this should be acted on sooner than later. The rest of them, the overall sheet can be adjusted at any given time. There's a lot of numbers there. If you have questions, particular questions, please let me know. Please ask, because I may not, as Patty pointed out, I wasn't so clear on some of these things the first go round.
I wanted to know why we were paying Ron,
Why were you?
Why
Hey,
we-
Ron's a great guy.
why we were charging Ron.
Yeah, Ron, RON means remain overnight, parking the aircraft overnight.
So well, it's my last sheet. Signatory airline rates and charges, that would be EAS.
That would include EAS, yes.
Okay, and it's only, the change is minimal from what we have now?
$15 per turn.
Okay,
Max.
right. And the others,
The others, the rates have changed. We are not charging a landing fee for EAS because we have not in the past. For the overall sheet, there is a landing fee that has never been imposed before. It does, imposing the landing fee reduces our current ramp fees, particularly for general aviation. And the difference between signatory and non-signatory airlines, signatory have a contract with us and rent space from us and so on. Non-signatory can be seasonal, I don't know what you,
overnight pretty much.
not overnight, but say Allegiant wants to come in seasonally.
Oh,
And they're not renting space long-term, they're only doing it short-term.
So where does
their rates are a little bit
the,
higher.
what is a TA that comes in because their student is at St. Lawrence or Clarkson?
Okay, that is considered general aviation. That is under the general aviation. They would
Okay.
be charged a landing fee
Down at the bottom.
and a ramp fee. And depending upon the
Amount of
services,
fuel purchase?
this, yes, the amount of fuel purchased. We do waive the ramp fee if a certain amount of fuel is purchased. We
Okay.
do that now. But with the landing fee, we reduce the ramp fee. If we choose, if the board chooses to adopt this, we would reduce the ramp fee.
What's
And
the difference from what we have right now?
About $100 per, $100 for the super heavy jet, $100 for the heavy, and the,
Those that come in, are they what, either a light jet or a medium jet?
most of ours are light and medium jets. We do get a few heavies, and we probably get only four or five super heavies a year. But there again, when you look at landing weights, it helps to balance out.
It's
Primary,
just the increase from what we've had in the past to what you're proposing. How much is that? I mean, percentage wise.
5 to 10.
Okay.
It's not a huge,
Yeah.
it's not a huge increase.
Nope.
It's small enough that it seems almost
Yes.
crazily small.
But it,
Not that you want to pass out anything, but we have expenses.
That's right.
we do have expenses. Once again, this is nothing that has to be acted upon,
Mm-hmm.
but this is something I wanted to bring forward to you.
The start, eh?
Pardon?
This is the start?
It's a start.
Okay.
If there's something there that doesn't seem reasonable, or something that that you don't feel we should charge for, when we talk about a ramp fee, the typical things people expect with a ramp fee.
Mhm.
There's somebody there to marshal them in.
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody there to assist them with bags. There's somebody there for odds and ends. The pilot will come in and say, hey, we got 3 hours. Can you get is there a taxi? Is there an Uber? Is there
Right,
this? We
right.
don't have a crew car right now, so we assist them in making phone calls and getting either taxis or Ubers. Hey, where can we eat? Where can we get a bite to eat? Hey, can we call in a pizza, something like that? Those kind of things. Coffee, can we get a cup of coffee? We need ice to cool the drinks in the aircraft. Those are things we don't charge for. We just do that. That's customer service. And that is a ramp fee as opposed to a parking fee where they come in, they park their plane and they have no services.
We have a
So
ramp fee in place now?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we have, and we would lower if we started the landing fee.
Can you explain, in a practical sense, when a plane was to come in, and there's 5 things on the menu that you need to charge them for. Tell me how that is accounted for. Do they just throw out the credit card and you go in the rate thing and I don't really know.
We have a
So-
software program called Total Aviation Software. And we,
Is that programmed in? Can you program these?
yes,
rates?
we can
Okay,
program
no,
all of that in.
I just wanted you to know just kind of how it's
Good.
done, because
So it's,
I'm not quite sure.
it's data entry and it prints it out and you have it. So you know how much to charge, you know what's coming and why. Beautiful.
Mhm.
My only comment to that, you were starting to go down that road, was it sounded a little confusing. They don't fly, but you get into, I would call it the art of negotiation. Oh, I took $99 of fuel, can't you waive this XYZ fee if I don't get to 100? I mean, a tank's full.
I hear that every time a plane comes in.
Well, see, so that's what I wonder is, I'm not saying your charges aren't wrong. Is there a way to make it easier? Because and less negotiable.
Yes,
Okay,
the
'cause I
way-
don't think they should be negotiable, right? That's what you're asking for, is clear.
Right.
exactly. And right now, we do have some fees and charges. And were approved by the board in 2018. That's what we're going with. And that's what we use. Well, we're only coming in at 8:45, and your office hours are over at 8:30 or at 8 o'clock. I mean, can you waive the call-in fee? Well, no, I have guys on overtime now. We can't waive that. And by the way, it is our board-approved policy.
So you don't really have a problem with
No,
This is standard in 99% of airports?
yes.
it. Okay, so there you go. That's what we're-
The
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
The big question for me, as it is every airport manager, is are the rates reasonable for what is being done, right? What it costs and what's comparable in the area?
Right.
Now, these fees are comparable to the surrounding area.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Good.
I've done some research.
Good.
So are we just moving this to the board, or?
Yeah, just
If,
based
if you're good with
for
those
March,
numbers.
for the March meeting. Because then that'll have it
I'm
ready
good
for
with
April 1st.
Motion, I would say, or I would entertain a motion to do that, to move those charges forward if you're okay with that, unless you have more discussion.
Also move
I'll second.
yeah.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? No.
Good.
Okay, we're good with that. Anything else on that? All good?
Well, good on that.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to item B1. So Steve, you.
Yes.
The acceptance of the rail car.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. B1 is the acceptance of the rail car conveyor bid. We've been through, this is the third time we've bid this out. We had complications with the last bid that didn't work. And this is all part of our Christie grant, if you all recall, that this grant has been out. It's $1 million. 800,000 is from federal funds and the other 200,000 belongs to the OBPA. And where there's 4 pieces of equipment, I came to you and we approved a front end loader was one of them. And then the rest are all conveyors. And this is the first of the 3 conveyors. And it is a rail car conveyor that unloads, basically we've used it for unloading grain from rail cars. And the one that we have now still works very well, but it's good to have to kind of improve our capabilities. And so this will definitely help us in the long run. But the other conveyor is close to 12 years old, still going fine. Anyway, we only had one bid, and I did a bid analysis on there, and we go through BidNet and we go through, Anne Marie puts our information on New York State Contract Reporter. So those are the 2 advertisements that we do, and you'll see on the bid analysis that there was 9 vendors. Not all of those are actual vendors, but they may have some relationship to another manufacturer or something, or have an interest in that. So they're on there. And the bids were received February 9th at 3 p.m. and they were publicly open for the subject project. Well, only one bid was submitted from one vendor. That contractor and the bid amount is summarized on the attached bid sets. And that's that spreadsheet you see on there. That the base bid amount was $225,670, and then the $4,014 is for a vibrator that shakes. It's a car shaker, and it makes you hook it up to the machine, then you hook up the rail car, and the product flows better. So I recommended that we include that for a price of $229,684 and 44 cents. You can see everything's checked off there on the non-inclusive bidding qualifications, MBE, WBE, and the EEO policy there. Yeah, let me think, what else have we got in here? There was no irregularities noted. I have spoken with the representative from US Materials, and they said they were comfortable with their bid and would accept the award. They gave us a delivery date, but this is all subject to, what do you call it? Getting parts and pieces to be able to put the thing together, but they've thought about 4 months we'd see that. So I'm asking the committee to recommend approval of this bid.
I move that we do that, recommend the bids.
There's a second.
A second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, motion passed. Take us to item B2. That's one, Steve, again.
Yes, item B2 is discussion of the port rail grant. I think you either read in the papers or I made you aware that we received a grant from, it's called PFRAP, which is the Passenger Freight and Rail, and I think port is in there somewhere, but that's the acronym that they use for the project. With the help of Erdman, Anthony, and Strategic Development, we put together kind of in a hurry back in April and May of 2021, a grant application that we're in need of upgrading the rail on the port. And I can show you if you need to, if you don't mind, I'll just show you where, and that map kind of shows it too, but basically it's the rail from here. There's 2 spurs. One goes out to here and then one goes right to there, the other side of building 6. So that's the area that we want to replace with 100-pound, 110-pound rail, I believe.
This is 100-pound.
100-pound. And we've done a lot on the main line. It's all been upgraded over the years, but there's certain parts of the rail line that haven't, been totally covered. And since this is on our property, we applied for a grant for that. And then also the replacement of the roof on building 2. That's been a little bit of a headache for us in that we've had to turn away real like weather sensitive products like paper and pulp. That if you have any kind of fertilizer, you have to be careful with moisture. We've been able to use it for road salt and things there that a little moisture, but it's got to the point where it needs replacement. I think the building was built, I want to say 85 or 86, so it's gotten a 40-year use out of it. And what's happened though is when you get salt and salt dust, it gets in the seams and then it works in there over time and then it picks up moisture. So you get a lot right where they're seamed and screws are in there, they rust, and then you get leaks. We've probably on average, I'd say over the last 10 years, we've spent probably between $5,000 and $10,000 a year just having a roofing contractor come in and patch it. And some years more, and then some we've neglected there. But that's been that part of that will be a real boost there. But my main question here is, how do we want to go about this? We need an engineer for this and an engineering firm, and we can set it up one of 2 ways, because I know when the grant comes to us, we've got to prove that we've gone out to the public and asked for a request for qualifications. We can do it for this project, but I would like to do it for this project, but also a kind of a 5-year thing like we do with the airport that would cover the port and the rail, so that you'd have one engineering firm, someone with an emphasis that has a construction thing, but also kind of a specialty on rail, so that we are, as the chairman knows, we're in a unique situation with rail. There's around the state, when there's rail money, there's limited areas where, we're not, it's like the port too. We're in competition, but there's not a lot of locations there that, so long as we look ahead and try to take care of our capital needs, we're in a pretty good position. Well, we've kind of neglected that. We haven't really had, because Vermont Rail in past, or, NYOG has handled a lot of things with the upgrading of their, and done a great job with that. So, but when it comes to the port and our rail there and stuff, I think to have somebody on board that's we go out for and see if they're qualified, but rather than just have a one-off thing, which would work for this, I believe, I would rather say when we get this grant that this is the process we went through and we went out for a 5-year, if they allow that, I think they will. So all I'm really just bringing this to facilities to say, to maybe get your blessing on saying how you would like me to go about that, I guess. I mean, if you see some downsides to a 5-year thing or whatever, but it's seemed to work. It works really well at the airport.
Well, things are changing in shipping and port operations. I think to look down 5 years may be beneficial to us. How much of, if this project is done, do we have 100-pound all the way out to milepost 1 now?
I think once you get out of the port, you're in pretty good shape.
Is that all 100 pounds?
Yeah, and if you notice, when Governor Hochul announced that, there was also an announcement of another for our railroad. Well, New York, because we own the track, we had to sign off with New York and Ogdensburg that because our contract will expire, I believe with them in 7 or 8 years, that they have to stand behind something for 10 years. So let's just say at the end of 7 or 8 years, they said goodbye. We don't want, we would be responsible for, there's a track it's our track, but anything that's doing with this grant, we would have to, it would come on to us to make sure that whatever's involved in that, there shouldn't be too much at the tail end of 10 years, but there might be some responsibilities that we as the owner would have to take on. But they're going to improve that rail from Norwood all the way over to the engine house. And that was that other grant there. So in effect, most of we're going to be in really good shape to get, and then we're doing the 2 bridges, the Grass River Bridge in Madrid, and then the Racket in Norwood. And those are the limiting factors right now for weight for the 286. So once those are repaired, hopefully the end of this year, you can bring in mostly 10 tons more per rail car. And there's a cost benefit discussion that Erdman did for us. And in that, they talk about the makeup of America's fleet of 286 and lower cars. Right. And it's kind of split between that, but it's more everybody's going, of course, going to the bigger stuff. Also too, we also have discussed, and this is replacing the locomotive. And there's grants out there for,
you know what I want?
There's grants out there actually for upgrading even to electric. And I don't know, we meet a lot of what a grant would ask for there. I don't know about other things, but that's kind of one thing that we can look at. So I guess, yeah, I just.
New locomotive.
Okay. That was a specific kind.
So when I get around to setting up the RFQ, you're okay with a 5-year kind of qualifications RFQ?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
As long as they have a crystal ball, they can look into the
That's right.
future somewhat for us.
Oh, that'll be one of the requirements.
Yes.
Right.
Crystal ball. So that was all that was about.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
This is all I have. Stephanie? Adam?
I have if we're done with that, a request for a executive session. Short,
Okay. So is that,
to deal with the personnel issue.
is that a motion?
I'll make
Yes.
the motion. I'll second.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will move to what time is it here? 4:55. We will move to executive session with no action.
I don't believe so.
Afterwards, so. Okay, so we are now in executive session. Okay, we are now out, it's 5:07 and we are now out of executive session with no action.
Correct.
So we're back in public session. I guess is there anything else to come before the committee?
Nothing
Nothing. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
Second?
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We are adjourned at 5:07.